Hello everyone, my name is Voodoo Bear, or Voodoo for short, and today I'm going to be showing off my Plateless GMMK Pro build. So I came across this when I was trying to make sure the whole assembly rested on as few contact points as possible on the case. So my initial thought was to file down these two wings on the side of the PCB that you see here that make contact with the sides of the case. And I would have the assembly just resting on the top and the bottom of the case itself. I did this because I've modified this GMMK Pro heavily. I've put flex cuts on the aluminum plate that I have, and I've also taken off some of the mounting tabs that go into the PCB itself. So the end goal was to have a little bit more bounce and a little bit more flexibility when the keyboard itself was assembled. Now, while I was looking at the PCB, I thought, well, you could just mount the whole thing on just these two wings on the side of the PCB, and that would be the fewest contact points possible because you would not be using the top or the bottom of the case. And that's what I did. So when that idea came up, the only obstacle that I had was A, how to keep the switches in place because it is a hot swap PCB, and B, how to keep the bottom of the PCB from contacting the metal bottom case as well. And the solution that I came up with is tape, as you can see here, and as I'll show off. So the first thing I did is I put one layer of gaffer's tape on the back of the PCB. You do want to cut holes for the stabilizer screws, for the daughter board cable, and for these alignment pins that are close to the knob as well. Now on the front, what I did is I put one layer of masking tape, and what that does is when you put in the switches into the PCB, that friction between the tape and both the PCB mount pins and the metal pins of the switches will just keep them in place. As you can see, if I turn it upside down and shake a little bit, the switches don't come off, and they don't come off during regular use either. Now, I do recommend you use standard sized switches, meaning that the PCB mount legs and the switches are a little bit bigger or oversized or just regular size. So I do advise against using, for example, Texi switches. I do advise against using plate mount switches as well, because there won't be enough friction to keep them in place since it is a hot swap board. Now, just with these two mods, everything works perfectly fine. So the front tape keeps the switches in place, and then the back tape keeps the PCB from making metal to metal contact at the bottom. You're mainly looking for these corners right here. So these corners have some raised edges, and if you don't put the tape on there when you're typing, the PCB will bounce up and down and create some ticking noises done in these two corners. And also some of the metal components, since there is more bounce and flex, can make contact with the bottom of the case as well. But other than that, it is pretty simple. So basically just the less is more principle. You're taking off the plate completely and just mounting it on the PCB using these two wings on the side, like I said before. Now, LED functionality is retained, so you just have to make sure you don't cover any of the LEDs on the side. You can use the LED diffusers, however, these do mount to the plate, so you would have to use some tape or some glue to keep them in place. I don't use the LEDs on this, so it wasn't a concern for me, but they do still shine through the sides, even without the diffusers, but they do come through the top as well, so keep an eye out for that. I think that is the best the GMMK Pro can be, taking out the plate. It brings out richer, fuller sound. It creates some more flex as well. As you can see, it flexes in both directions, and even when mounted, it has a nice bounce to it. Now, obviously, it is not going to be the flexiest or bounciest thing in the world. There is still quite a bit of compression when the whole assembly is put together, but it's definitely way better than even with the polycarb plate on this keyboard. So I do definitely highly recommend this. I've worked on the GMMK Pro extensively. It's been one of the boards that I most modified since I got it, and I do think this is the best that it can be, going plateless. The tape does have an effect on the sound, as you might expect, but I really haven't found a more efficient way to keep the bottom from touching and the switches from falling out without using the tape. As for the bottom, you could use foam, but that's going to take away from the flexibility and bounce that you get from going plateless. And then as for the front, the PE mods and PE foams that are out there that are sold have pre-cut holes in them. And the way you keep the switches in place is by creating those holes yourself when you push in the switches through the tape. So I think this is the way to go. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions about how to get this done, feel free to comment below. You can also join my Discord, which is linked down in the description. And if you like what you saw, go ahead and drop a subscribe, drop a like on the video as well. If you want to see me work on keyboards live, you can do so at twitch.tv/thevoodoobear. I try to stream at least 3 times a week, and I do various keyboard things on there, so feel free to check that out too. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and here is the typing test.